So, transparency in judicial appointments, especially at the High Court and Supreme Court, transparency in Collegium has been a long standing demand and an ever perpetual process which has been evolving. You have been very closely following this process, you've been a part of this process. How can we have a more transparent Collegium system in the country?
The basic or the most objectionable part of the functioning of the Collegium is its lack of transparency. And there was a very short period where Collegium recommendations were being made public, where some reasons were given as to why a particular person is being elevated as compared to any other competing person. For instance, from the same High Court, if somebody is being superseded in a High Court, then why is he being superseded, etc. This reasoning has stopped coming now in the Collegium decisions, and we get just a one-line Collegium decision which says so and so is recommended for appointment. And obviously, in the recent past, these Collegium recommendations are being implemented immediately. So obviously, government has sort of agreed to this recommendation even prior to the recommendation being made. Because we've seen in the last couple of years, there have been instances where recommendations have been made to wait for months, sometimes even years together, because the government felt that the recommendation was not in sync with their views. I personally feel that the Collegium system, both at the High Court and at the Supreme Court level, need to become transparent, and that's the only way you can instill confidence in the system. I don't see why at the High Court level they should not have a system where they are able to consider all the names which can be considered for the purposes of elevation. So why does a Collegium member suggest a name? Why is this system working in this manner so that the only names which the three top judges know about or whom they know are only considered for elevation? Why not they consider anybody's name being sent to them? Why not they look at that name and see whether this person is fit to be elevated or not? The moment they start looking at those names, and I am not saying that they are bound by anybody giving a particular name, at least if they look at that name, look at the the work that the person has done, his standing in the bar, his income tax return, there are a lot of features which clearly show the credibility of a person to be elevated as a High Court judge. Now, what is happening today is that they are only looking at names which they know of, or the people they know, and they only discuss among themselves and recommend some names. In Supreme Court, it is a little more complex, and accordingly makes it more, I would say, objectionable, because Supreme Court, there are a lot of High Courts which don't have any person in the Supreme Court. There are some High Courts where you take more than one person in spite of some High Courts not having anybody in the Supreme Court. You have people who are being, senior people being superseded from a particular High Court. Women not have been represented in Supreme Court. Even today we have only 2 women out of 36, which is a number which is less than 10%. Now that's a very, very sad figure as far as elevation to Supreme Court is concerned. So I feel that even that little bit which was being written as to why a particular name is being considered, at least that should have continued. And with passage of time, one could have gone a little more detailed as to why a particular name from a particular High Court has not been considered at all, in spite of the fact that there is no elevation from that High Court for so many years. So all these are issues which I think should engage the Collegium, and they should bring in more transparency to, at least make the system more credible, so that people may have faith in the system. And the more they become opaque, the more they lose their credibility, and the more the judiciary comes in flack. So I'm one person who defends the judiciary, because I think the judiciary is doing a great job in many ways. And these small things, which is giving the judiciary a bad name, needs to be corrected at the earliest.